Welcome to the 700 Club. I guess I can show my age and tell you that I was 11 years old on December the 7th, 1941, which Franklin Roosevelt said a day that will live in infamy. We were attacked by the Japanese. That was 75 years ago, and it began for us an incredible war that has transformed this nation ever since. Well, we've got a new game in town that much goes past Pearl Harbor. Donald Trump is promising to, quote, heal our divisions and unify our country, as he plans to meet tomorrow with some of the victims of the car and knife attack last week at Ohio State University.
That's right. Trump has also been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year after winning the presidency. And he's telling the people of America on his thank you tour that he intends to keep his campaign promises of rebuilding our defenses and our economy. Gary Lane has the story.
With Defense Secretary nominee General James Mad Dog Mattis at his side, Trump told a crowd in Fayetteville, North Carolina, that military families and veterans will be among his top priorities.
We will rebuild our military and alliances, destroy terrorists, face our enemies head on, and make America safe again.
Trump again pledged to rebuild America's crumbling infrastructure, cut both business and personal taxes, repeal and replace Obamacare, and stop illegal immigration. General Mattis said he was grateful for the opportunity to return to the troops and their families at the Pentagon.
With our allies strengthened, with our country strengthened, I look forward to being the civilian leader so long as the Congress gives me the waiver and the Senate votes to consent.
A waiver is needed because Mattis has only been out of the military for 3 years. Current law prevents former military officers from heading the Defense Department less than 7 years after retirement. House Republicans say they put the waiver in the upcoming budget bill. But at least one Democrat in the Senate, New York's Kirsten Gillibrand, says she opposes a waiver for Mattis because civilian control of the military is a fundamental principle of American democracy. Mattis may have more challenges ahead. If he gets the waiver and is approved as the nation's next Secretary of Defense, one of his first tasks may be to reform wasteful Pentagon spending and the department's bloated procurement process. The Washington Post reported that a 2015 Pentagon study found more than $125 billion in wasted administrative spending that could have been saved. Current Defense Secretary Ash Carter is being accused of stifling those findings.
It was 100% approved, and the Secretary stopped the process.
The Pentagon says the allegation is false. Meanwhile, Trump took a decisive action Tuesday, firing the son of his pick for National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn. 33-year-old Michael Flynn was a transition team staff member. He had spread false rumors on social media linking a Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant and the Clinton campaign to a child sex trafficking ring. Trump also took on government contractor Boeing for cost overruns for the new presidential jet.
The plane is totally out of control. It's going to be over $4 billion. It's for Air Force One program. And I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number. We want Boeing to make a lot of money, but not that much money.
And just days after announcing a deal with the Carrier Air Conditioning Company to keep jobs in the United States, Trump announced another deal, this time with the Japanese bank that owns Sprint. The president-elect made the announcement at Trump Tower with SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son.
And he's just agreed to invest $50 billion in the United States and 50,000 jobs.
More Trump administration jobs were on the mind of the transition team, including Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, who's expected to get Trump's nod for ambassador to China. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Amazing. Well, Trump is also planning to make his nomination to the Supreme Court soon to replace the late Justice Antonin Scalia. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington.
That's right, Pat. President-elect Trump announced his list of potential Supreme Court choices during the campaign, and he says he'll choose from that group. He'll also be naming a wide range of judges to other federal courts that could have impacts on other major cases around the country. Paul Strand has that story from Capitol Hill.
This choice matters so much because Trump's nomination or nominations could sway the direction of the court and Americans' rights for decades to come, which is why it was such a big deal for many voters. The Trump transition team is actually moving faster than many of those in recent years, so it wouldn't be all that surprising for Trump to also announce his Supreme Court nominee early. After all, this issue was one of the biggest for voters this election.
It was something like 75% of people who voted said that the Supreme Court was either an important or the most important issue that they voted for.
The Heritage Foundation's John Malcolm is a legal expert who came up with a list of 8 nominees, 6 of whom made it to Trump's list of 21 judicial nominees. He says all are distinguished and believe in adhering to the Constitution.
They'll look at the text and structure of the Constitution and will interpret that according to its original public meaning at the time those phrases were ratified. And that is very, very important and meaningful to conservatives.
And one very important issue that's generally been overlooked, not only will Trump choose Antonin Scalia's replacement on the Supreme Court, he may also pick about 1/3 of judges on lower federal courts, which make many more rulings than the High Court itself.
So the Supreme Court decides between 70 and 80 cases per year. Times it's been more, times it's been less, but about 70 to 80 cases per year. In the 13 federal courts of appeals last year, they decided 55,000.
And it's likely he'll nominate 3 or 4 Supreme Court justices.
Stephen Breyer is going to be 78 years old, Anthony Kennedy is going to be 80 years old, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to be 83 years old. I don't wish any of them ill health whatsoever, but they will each have already lived longer than the average lifespan for a man or woman in this country.
With Trump likely to get not just one, but several Supreme Court vacancies to fill, it won't be all that surprising if someday history talks about not just a Reagan court or a Roosevelt court, but a Trump court as well. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Supreme Court.
Thanks, Paul. And Pat, all eyes will be watching.
Sure are. You know, we were privileged at Regent University. We had Antonin Scalia several times as a speaker, and the students loved him. He spent time with us, and, you know, he was a very open, engaging gentleman who just had a wonderful concept of the sanctity of the Constitution. We also had Samuel Alito down here right after his nomination to the court. We had a wonderful time with him, and of course, others were, you know, judges, but I imagine the Democrats are just eating their hearts out. They pulled a fast one. They put through what was called the nuclear option. They blasted the filibuster rules of the Senate, which said, okay, all you need is a simple majority to get somebody confirmed to anything except the Supreme Court, which means all those lower court judges now can be passed by a Republican majority, and they can just jam them through one after the other. And Trump has picked a group of extraordinarily fine conservatives. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal, and you've got to remember what they're talking about. One is the Constitution is a written document, and what you try to do is find out what the people meant when they wrote those words. At whatever time those amendments or the original document was passed, what was it intended to mean? And then how can we interpret that in today's world? Now, that is the original construction. But the so-called progressives say, oh, no, the Constitution is a living document that can be interpreted according to the mores and the sociological predilections of people in the current era. So it's a living document, and we can essentially amend it at will any way we want to. Now, that is the kind of judge that Hillary Clinton said she was going to put on the court. Donald Trump said, no, I'm going to put on people who go to the original meaning of the Constitution. It is a huge difference, a huge difference. If the judges can rewrite the Constitution any way we want to, and I wrote a book called Courting Disaster that studied about 175 Supreme Court decisions, so it was shocking when one of the judges said the Constitution is whatever we say it is. You get that kind of feeling, and that's what they teach at Yale Law School. That's what they teach at most of the law schools across the country. And Trump's saying, no, I want people who say the Constitution is what it says, the text is what's important, and it's a rule of law that we want to stick with. It's a major fight, and apparently he won. So with with the nuclear option having already been put across by the Democrats, then the Republicans, Mitch McConnell, will say, well, we're very grateful. We'll follow the rules that were given us by our predecessors. And boy, they're going to jam them through. You watch what's going to happen. But the Supreme Court will be different. But I can't imagine the Democrats filibustering one of those judges, because they're superb judges, and they'd have no reason to do it. So I think that the next pick on the Supreme Court should go through very rapidly. John.
Pat, across Iraq, ISIS has blazed a trail of terror targeting Christians and other minorities. Now that military forces have freed a number of towns and villages, the persecuted see a glimmer of hope. As CBN's Chris Mitchell reports, it's coming in the form of a sanctuary town, courtesy of the Kurdish military.
The town of Bashika sits just a few miles from Mosul and ISIS. Driving through the town, it bears the scars of a bitter battle. Before Bashika and other towns were liberated by the Kurdish military, ISIS planted thousands of IEDs, booby-trapped homes, and dug dozens of tunnels. It will take months to make these areas completely safe. Commanding General Bahram Yassin told CBN News his Peshmerga soldiers are clearing the town to create a safe zone.
We are in the process of implementing democracy and making it stronger in this region, and providing a peaceful area for all the Christians as well as all the different religions to live here, and for all the people. Even President Barzani, when he came to the city, promised all the people from the nations, different religions or colors, to live together in peace.
General Bahram says the town will need major help from humanitarian and relief groups to help in the rebuilding.
This assistance by all the NGOs is really important for us, and we really appreciate that, because those people that are here now don't have anything. ISIS took everything from them, and they really need the assistance.
We are here to serve the military in a medical capacity.
Dalton Thomas directs one group that provides humanitarian relief and supports the Peshmerga.
Because we think it is a morally, ethically, biblically appropriate and noble thing to do, to serve the people who are fighting to preserve life. We want to help them preserve life as they fight to preserve life. For the Peshmerga, this is not a war of conquest and dominion. This is a war of defense and stabilization.
Thomas believes it's an important time for the U.S. to stand with the Kurds.
Kurdistan is our greatest ally in the region, apart from Israel. And Kurdistan is this bastion of hope, I think, in the midst of this war. I think they deserve our trust. I think they deserve our support. I am glad and proud as an American that we have served Kurdistan. I would like to see that service and that commitment be exponentially grown over the next few years.
Some hope the incoming Trump administration will increase that support to the Kurds. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Bashika, Kurdistan.
Pat, no doubt the Kurds have been a solid U.S. ally.
Those Peshmerga fighters are the ones that have been holding the line against ISIS, and they're tremendous people. And the Kurds have established just a democratic enclave in the midst of all this other. And they also have some tremendous, at Kirkuk, tremendous oil resources. So what this country has been doing, we say, yeah, we'll send aid to the Kurds, but we send it through the central government in Baghdad, who in turn takes a big cut and then passes the remnants on to the Kurds. We need to give them direct aid. We need to, ignore this fiction of Iraq. It is a fiction. It was just cobbled together by the European powers, and it's time we recognize that there needs to be an independent Kurdistan with its own nation. And then there needs to be a Sunni enclave, and there needs to be a Shia enclave, because Iraq is never going to hold together the way it is now. But the Kurds deserve their own country. And I think President Trump, President-elect Trump, understands this, and he may be willing to make a move. Turkey won't like it. Well, that's just tough luck. John?
Pat, turning to some health news. If you want to cut your risk of premature death and having heart problems, cancer, and other diseases, try eating a handful of nuts every day. A new study from the Imperial College London found a consistent reduction in the risk of getting various diseases. Various nuts have different health benefits, and researchers say that eating more than a handful of nuts, rather, don't have any more benefits. but it's an easy way to quite possibly help you stay healthy and live longer. Pat, it sounds like we're preaching to the choir here.
I love them. By the way, I'm giving a plug for Costco. You just shop at Costco?
No, I don't need to buy in bulk. You know.
Why?
Because I'm single, Pat.
Yeah, well, you are. what a shame. 75, what am I saying? I'm saying something else. There's a big container at Costco. They have their own brand of everything. And this is a big container of all kind of mixed nuts. You've got Brazil nuts, you've got cashews, you've got filberts, you've got all these wonderful nuts. Every day I have a helping of nuts. Then I eat some kind of like cashew or oatmeal or something, and then on top of that I've got fruit like blueberries and it's a great thing, but it'll keep you healthy and you eat.
So what if you have your walnuts in the chocolate chip cookies? If the walnuts are in the cookies, does that count?
No.
No. Okay.
I think all the other cancels out the benefit.
I made chocolate chip cookies for my neighbor the other day. He loves my chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, you make it? Yeah.
I do. I just make the Toll House recipe. But anyway, I brought him to him. And the first thing he said when he saw him was, "Are there nuts in them?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Because you didn't put nuts in them the last time."
Oh, really?
So he really wanted the nuts. So anyway, walnuts in the chocolate
pecans.
chip
I make age-defying pancakes that have walnuts and pecans in them that are absolutely delicious. So anyhow.
Lots of nuts for Christmas.
I'm for nuts. And what it says, folks, you want to live longer. It helps you all kinds of things with your health. But get mixed nuts. I don't know who sells big in bulk. You can go to these health food stores and probably they have big bins of the nuts and they can measure them out for you.
They do. They absolutely do.
All right.
Good word. All right.